Hello everybody, welcome back. Scorpio Caesar here once again, and if you know, you know, today is September 9th, and 9/9/99 was the North American release date for the Sega Dreamcast. It was the one that kickstarted the 6th generation of consoles, and in my honest opinion, the best generation of consoles. That being said, I just want to do a video sharing my collection of Dreamcast games. So anyways, welcome to the Caesar Arcade.
Get ready.
So the Sega Dreamcast is a console that took me by storm early last year, and I do not regret it one bit. Yes, it's been quite a ride with some ups and downs, considering that the GD-ROM drive was starting to fail on this one, but I ended up finding another one on eBay, as is, 4 parts, didn't read discs, same issue this one was kind of having, and I bought an extra GD-ROM drive and swapped it, so now I have 2 working Dreamcasts. So what I plan on doing is getting a custom shell for one of these and actually going in there and changing out the LED light and just modding it basically. With that out of the way, I want to talk about the Dreamcast games that I've picked up so far, and in a year from now maybe I'll do an update with the new additions to the collection. So let's get to it. So first off, we have Alone in the Dark: A New Beginning. This is a game that I didn't even know existed until I looked it up and found out that it was similar to the classic style Resident Evil games. Picked it up. From what I played, it's really quite enjoyable and it looks best on the Dreamcast. Next up we have Blue Stinger. This is a very interesting kind of horror game, but at the same time, I can't take it seriously, and the game doesn't even take itself too seriously. I mean, it's got the same voice actors that were in Sonic Adventure, so let's just get that out of the way. But regardless, if you're into pseudo-horror games that are pretty self-aware, definitely check out Blue Stinger on the Dreamcast. I honestly think it's a must-have. Next up, we have Choo Rocket. Don't ask why I have 2 copies of this game, I just do. But Choo Rocket is such a fantastic little game. It's definitely unique, and it's one of the first games I ever got to experience on the Sega Dreamcast back in the days when my cousin Tony actually had one. And I really do enjoy it to this day. It's definitely worth picking up, especially if you have the Dreamcast. And next up we have Crazy Taxi and Crazy Taxi 2. Now, Crazy Taxi is another one of those original Sega Dreamcast games that I played back in 1999. Hell man, I remember it to this day. I was like, this is awesome. Really fun arcade action, and I mean, if you haven't heard of Crazy Taxi, come on. It's really good. Hell, even The Simpsons ripped off it, so definitely check out both of these games when you get the chance. Next up we have Daytona USA, but I ended up picking up the Dreamcast version because I heard it was better than the Saturn version, which isn't saying much, but it was still a decent version. Now this one has some issues with the steering. I think the game was really meant to be played with a steering wheel controller, and it's definitely something that I want to pick up for the Dreamcast at some point, just so I can experience it. Back when I used to visit Software Etc., which ended up becoming GameStop, I remember towards the tail end of the Dreamcast, they were still selling some used games, and I remember this one in particular, Dead or Alive 2, and there was a reason why. It was because when you opened it up, the game wasn't in there because Software Etc. at the time, or even GameStop, used to hide their games in their drawers so nobody can steal them. So I remember seeing this picture of Kasumi and being like, what is this game about? I kind of want to play it. Oh my god. The Chronicles of Pern Dragon Riders. My wife made me buy this game.
Quiet, lad. I need to concentrate.
She's a huge fan of Anne McCaffrey's books, so I had no choice but to hunt this one down. I paid a pretty penny for it too. It's not a common game, and it's not a great one either, but hell, I mean, it was my first Dreamcast game at the time, and I didn't even have a Dreamcast, so. Next up, Echo the Dolphin, Defender of the Future. A game where you play as a dolphin is intriguing enough. And this one in particular is no exception to that. I mean, you get to play as freaking Echo the Dolphin in a 3D environment. That was a first. It was always a 2D game before that, and this game is beautiful. Honestly, the Sega Dreamcast in general, the games look gorgeous to this day. And that's because most of them supported a 480p resolution, and that, my friends, is how you future-proof your console. Next up, we have Godzilla Generations. This is a game I had to pick up because I remember seeing it back in a few game stores back when I was younger and wondering, what does that play like? I love Godzilla, obviously. So what was this game like? It's not that great, honestly. Hydro Thunder on the Sega Dreamcast is kind of a must-have, especially since this is like the best version to get on consoles. However, this one does not unfortunately support 480p, which is weird. Apparently the hot new version does, not this one, and that's not the one I have here. So unfortunately I have to plug in my composite cables in order to run the game. It's weird, but it is what it is. Jet Grind Radio is a beloved game for the Sega Dreamcast that doesn't get enough attention these days. I've only played a little bit of it, but I knew it was a must-have for the Dreamcast, and if you haven't picked this one up, you definitely should. Next up, we have Metropolis Street Racer, MSR for short. This was actually Bizarre Creations' first racing game. I believe it was their first racing game, but anyways, on the Xbox, I love the Project Gotham Racing series, and this is kind of like... Next up, we got Mortal Kombat Gold. We talked about this already in one of my holographic video game box art episodes. Probably the best console version of Mortal Kombat 4 you can get. It's got added characters in this version, and it plays like a dream. Miss Pac-Man Maze Madness. Again, another one of those 5th generation games that got the Dreamcast treatment and looks all the better for it. And plus, the soundtrack in this game is to die for. Pen Triathlon. I think I said that right. This is one of those weird ass Sega Dreamcast games that you only find on the Sega Dreamcast. And this was back when video games had personality. They were willing to experiment with wacky ideas, and this game is the epitome of wackiness. Rayman 2 The Great Escape. Now, I have Rayman 2 on the N64, but once again, the Dreamcast got the best version of this game. Resident Evil 2. When I saw videos of this version in particular, I was like, this looks a lot better than the PlayStation 1 original, and of course the N64 version. So what did I do? I hunted it down on the Dreamcast, and I paid a pretty penny for it, but it was definitely worth it because Resident Evil 2 is another one of those legendary survival horror games that I had to have one of the best versions of. And speaking of which, we have Resident Evil 3 as well, Nemesis. My favorite Resident Evil game to this day. Definitely one of the best versions of this game as well. And we also have Resident Evil Code Veronica. Now, originally when I saw this game in a Fingerhut magazine, I was like, wait a minute, Resident Evil isn't going to be on the PlayStation anymore? Boo-hoo, no it wasn't. But I didn't get a Dreamcast and I didn't have any intention of asking my parents for one, so I missed out on this game originally. Next up, Samba de Amigo. Picked this up out of curiosity. I've never played the Samba de Amigo games, but I heard a lot of good things about it, and it's definitely a fun rhythm game, but you definitely need the maracas, which I don't have. Sega Rally 2, Sega Rally Championship, a sequel to the beloved Sega Rally on the Sega Saturn, and this one wasn't as well received as the Saturn one, but regardless, I still wanted to pick it up just to have another racing game on the Sega Dreamcast, and one that's, you know, exclusive to it. Shenmue. Need I say more? It's Shenmue. Legendary game by Yu Suzuki, and I love this game so much. Actually, I have a separate video planned for Shenmue in general that we'll get to soon, especially now that we hit 700 subscribers. So be on the lookout for that. But we're not done with that. and you always see these in the background of my videos when I'm standing up here. The PAL versions of Shenmue and Shenmue II. Why I decided to hunt these down? Because it's awesome to actually have some continuity here. But Europeans got it on the Dreamcast, and I decided, hey, why not? If I'm going to replay Shenmue again, I'm going to play the PAL version so that my save file carries over into Shenmue 2. And just to have Shenmue 2 on the Dreamcast, it's amazing. Come on. Sonic Adventure, a game that needs no introduction. This is the first official 3D Sonic game, and it's arguably one of the best 3D Sonic games ever made. A lot of people love this one. A lot of people experience this on the GameCube as well, but the Dreamcast version is the way to go. And with that, I also have Sonic Adventure 2. This game is like a holy grail to me, the fact that I even have it alone. I remember seeing the ads for Sonic Adventure 2 on TV and thinking to myself, man, I really wish I had a Dreamcast so I could play this game. So Calibur, come on, another launch Dreamcast game, and definitely worth adding to the collection, especially if you're a fan of fighting games. Space Channel 5, another rhythm game that it takes a little while to get into, but it's so wacky and unique. Definitely worth adding to the collection if you have a Sega Dreamcast. Next up, we also have Star Wars Episode 1 Jedi Power Battles, Tokyo Extreme Racer. I like it, but at the same time, I'm not too crazy about the whole Tokyo Importuner Challenge racing games. Tomb Raider The Last Revelation. You see, on my quest to collect every Tomb Raider game, I figured the last two that came out for the original PlayStation that came out on the Dreamcast, I might as well pick up on the Dreamcast because they look and play better. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six and Rainbow Six Rogue Spear were a couple of games that I was just curious about, and I decided to pick them up when I saw them pop up on a claim sale for really cheap. That's why I own them now. So, yeah. Toy Commander is another one of those unique Sega Dreamcast games. Basically just playing as toy cars, toy planes, toy tanks. Definitely worth checking out. You're in kitchens, rooms, and definitely want to check this one out if you have the chance. And this one I just got randomly. I have no manual for it, unfortunately, and it doesn't even work because it doesn't support 480p, but this is trick style. I just figured I'd show this off because it's in there. So, and last but not least, we have WWF Attitude and WWF Royal Rumble. You see, Royal Rumble was a game I always used to see at Laser Park. Yeah, remember Laser Park, where you could play laser tag with some of your friends? They had an arcade cabinet with WWF Royal Rumble in it, and I was like, why does this look like the SmackDown games? It pretty much runs on the same engine and has the same character models. Looks a little better, but it doesn't play as good. I picked it up because I was like, you know what, I always wanted to play it. I always wanted to try it out, so I did. And it is whatever. And last but not least, we have another PAL version here. This one did not get a North American release, unfortunately, and that is Headhunter, a game I originally have on the PlayStation 2, but once I found out it was released in Europe for the Sega Dreamcast, I figured I should probably check out the Dreamcast version because, hell, it supports 480p and it looks fantastic. Dare I say, better than the PlayStation 2 version. However, it does come on multiple discs, which is very, well, for its time, it's a thing, but I like it, and I actually prefer playing it on the Dreamcast. It just feels at home. That's the system it was originally on anyways. So that's it for my Sega Dreamcast collection. Very small collection. It's kind of compact compared to a lot of the other systems and games that I have, but it's one that I am pretty proud of. And I did make a Sega Dreamcast buying guide, I think it was last year, and that was one of my more popular videos that I'm really happy about. I'm going to put that in the top right hand corner of your screen and in the description down below if you're interested in watching that. Anyways, everybody, thank you for joining me on this collection video for the Sega Dreamcast. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, hit me up in the comment section down below, hit that subscribe button, and let me know what's your favorite Sega Dreamcast game. Anyways, thanks for watching. I wish you all a good game and good night.